Hello everyone, this is Turin here, and today guys I'm back with more early access gameplay of the Norsca DLC. In this 1v1 match, I'm going to be playing Bretonnia, led by the Fey Enchantress and several of the new Regiments of Renown, and we're going to be facing off against the inept General, who's going to be using Norsca and Wulfric the Wanderer. So guys, let's go ahead and take a look at the army compositions, and we can go from there. So for my front line, I have a combination of Battle Pilgrims and Foot Squires. So Battle Pilgrims, in my opinion, are going to be a very, very good choice against Norsca, because they have pretty high DPS against low armor targets. And as you guys know, Marauders and Berserkers and a lot of those very popular frontline units do indeed have very low armor. So these guys with their 38 weapon strength are going to be quite nice. On top of that, and secondly, they do also have Frenzy, so they're going to be immune to psychology, and as you guys know, Norsca has a lot of scary frontline troops, and those mammoths do cause fear and terror, so while these guys do at least have their leadership above 50%, they're not going to route to that kind of monstrous rush that Norsca, can potentially present. On top of that, it's definitely a good idea to mix in some of these Foot Squires, because Norsca does also have the Marauder champions, so don't be fooled into thinking that Norsca is going to have, completely unarmored, Berserker frontline. Often, from what I've seen, at least in my anecdotal experience here, a lot of people are bringing the Marauder champions who do have 70 or 80 armor, so having these Foot Squires with their armor piercing and their bonus versus infantry of 8 is going to be very useful for fighting that frontline battle. On top of that, up on the far side, I do have the Holy Wardens, and I'm not even going to try and say that second part of the name because I will mangle it horribly, but these guys are awesome. So they're essentially just these juiced up Battle Pilgrims, and I would think because they didn't have the shield, because basically they replaced their shield with the second main hand weapon, that they would have a lower melee defense. But if you look at these standard Battle Pilgrims over here, and these ones do have chevrons, they have 30 melee defense, and if you look at these guys, they actually have 38 melee defense. So really, there's no downside to these guys. And plus against Norsca, they're going to be extremely strong because they have the flame attacks, and they also have magic attacks. So against Skin Wolves, against pretty much any of those regenerating units like Trolls, these guys are going to be great, and of course they are immune to psychology and do have Frenzy. Something else that's really nice about Battle Pilgrims compared to the Foot Squires is Battle Pilgrims actually have exceptional leadership. Most of them are around 80. Granted, there is a Grail Reliquary right here buffing these guys up, so it's a little bit of an inaccurate assessment. So, of course, in order to slay those unchivalrous brutes, it's going to be very important to bring your Royal Pegasus Knights. So you definitely need some anti-large, kind of monster hunting type units, and these guys are going to be great. They're very fast, they're immune to vigor, and on top of that, they have a monstrous anti-large bonus. So against the Mammoths, against the Skin Wolves, pretty much any of those big scary things that Norsca, is most likely going to bring, these guys are really going to do a good job of kind of charging them and putting them down. On top of that, fire is definitely a good tool against Norsca as well, as I mentioned before, dealing with the Trolls, dealing with, the Skin Wolves, pretty much all of those different things. And if they bring Throg, these guys are going to punish him pretty hard. So, Peasant Bowman with Fire Arrow. So I have 3 groups of those guys. In the back, 2 Men-at-Arms with Polearm. So if they do bring some Armored Skin Wolves or a big Mammoth who's charging through your ranks, it's pretty helpful to have all these halberds on those guys. And here's the other Regiment of Renown I have, the Knights of the Lionhearted. So these guys are the Regiment of Renown of the Knights of the Realm. They have a pretty good anti-large bonus, but aside from that, they're mostly just kind of juiced up Knights of the Realm. So it definitely doesn't hurt to have these mobile anti-large units, and they'll definitely do a good job of kind of intercepting those Skin Wolves and putting up a pretty good fight in that respect. And they do also cause fear, which if they do get into Marauders and things like that, definitely won't hurt. So in the back, this is actually probably one of my new favorite ones. They just look so freaking cool. The Beast Slayers of Bastion. Bastion? I think that's how you would say it. But they do have pretty good AP values of 17, plus a bonus for its large of 15. So a lot of folks that I've seen, when playing with Lionheart and playing with Surreal Beliefs, a lot of people seem to bring the Armored Skin Wolves. They're a little bit slower, but they're much more durable. So having those AP values, plus the Armor Piercing, the Armor Piercing plus the Anti-Large is going to be very effective. So that's pretty much it for my army, guys. I do, of course, have the Fey Enchantress in the front line. So for the forces of Norsca here in the forest, led by the inept General, he does have Wulfric the Wanderer on his War Mammoth. So it's pretty funny. When you actually look at him in battle, Wulfric literally just sits here the whole time. It'd be awesome if he played those drums, but he does not. He just sits and lets his mammoth do all the work. But nonetheless, he does still have the Hunter of Champions and the Sea Fang abilities, and of course he does have Rage, causes fear and terror, and Wulfric's definitely quite a force to be reckoned with, although it feels weird saying like Wulfric since it's mostly that mammoth doing the work. Over here, he does have Skin Wolves armored, and I believe he does have the Regiment of Renown somewhere. So the Regiment of Renown over here on the far side, let's go ahead and take a look. No, it's just regular Skin Wolves, so he didn't bring the Regiment of Renown, unfortunately for him, which is pretty good against Bretonnia. So he does also have some Marauder Spears. So this is what's really great about Norsca, is they have Marauder Spearmen. So a very cheap anti-large option, which Chaos kind of lacks. When you play Chaos, you have to bring Halberds, you have to bring Chosen, which are very expensive and kind of clunky. But these guys are pretty quick with 35 move speed, and they have a good anti-large bonus with 20 or 37 melee defense, which is quite high. So he has a combination of Marauders in the front line, which honestly will do just fine against Bretonnia. He does also have the Icehorn Marauders. So these are the Regiment of Renown. They're definitely pretty cool. I think they just have slightly higher combat stats, and they are immune to Vigor as well. so they're not going to get tired and are immune to psychology. So definitely helpful. Not so much against Bretonnia because I don't have King Lewin, but nonetheless very cool. He does also have the Soul Crusher, so the 80s metal mammoth of Total War Warhammer. So this guy is awesome. He has anti-large missiles on top, so those guys actually throw javelins, and it's not a joke. These guys hit pretty hard. Like, they can wear down Pegasus Knights and different things like that, so this guy's definitely tough to kill. He does also have Enrage, so if they do a big timing push, let's say, Royal Pegasus Knights dive in, you know, the Knights of the Lionhearted, you can pop this Enrage and give him a 44% physical ward save, or not ward save, it's a physical ward save. It's a ward save against all types of damage. Pretty incredible, very scary, anti-infantry, armor piercing. Aside from that, he has Marauders and Marauder Hunters, though, with Javelin. So these guys are going to be pretty great against Bretonnia. They do have anti-large, so they'll be decent against Pegasus Knights, different things like that. Granted, the Peasant Bowmen will definitely be able to pick these guys off because they have 15 armor and they have no shields of any sort. So a bit of a combination of units. He does also have the Marauder Champions at the back, so definitely, very glad I brought some Foot Squires. So guys, without further ado, let the games begin. So right now, we're kind of just posturing up to one another. The Inept General definitely had some sneaky deployment over here in the forest. I didn't know where his forces were, per se. I thought, he might be like right up here, he might be coming this direction or this direction, so I had to kind of just like realign everything. So you can see the forces of Bretonnia are kind of turning to face the Norscan hordes as they come out of this forest here. I do also have my Royal Pegasus Knights kind of flying and surveying the area, just waiting for an opportunity to jump on Wulfric the Wanderer or, some of these Skinwolves, for example. And something I'd like to note about the Norsca in general is, guys, it's very, very risky to take the battle to Norsca, because if you try and pressure their flanks, they're going to be able to frostbite you, they're going to be able to pin you down with the Skinwolves. Personally, I think playing like a tight defensive shell against Norsca is going to be better, and using your superior missiles to kind of poke down their lightly armored troops, because their frontliners are extremely squishy. And you can see these Marauder Spearmen, even though these ones don't have shields, so you can see a single volley, and not even all of those really made good contact, was able to take them down a pretty decent percentage of health. And as they perpetually fire here on some of these Marauders, it's going to do some good work. So you can see these guys taking some decent HP damage, but the Skinwolves and the Mammoths are coming in pretty hot, so the forces of Bretonnia are going to have to brace for this. So you can see the Knights of the Lionhearted are kind of getting in position, as well as the Royal Pegasus Knights are going to be waiting here. But look how hard these Marauders go down, and had those been Berserkers, it would have been even worse. So guys, here in the front line, you can see the Mammoth is going to be tearing into my Regiment of Renown, these Battle Pilgrims right here, and some of these heroes of Bretonnia jumping up to attack Wulfric on this Mammoth. Definitely a very bold feat. And it actually looked like the AI was pretty good, so some of them stayed and fought, and the rest of these guys charged back to these Spearmen. So you can see my Holy Wardens here are going to get in here and just take it to some of these Marauders, definitely doing some massive HP damage. And this is a very, very good matchup for me, because these Marauders aren't necessarily meant for fighting versus other infantry. But guys, the Mammoth here has engaged versus some of my Pegasus Knights. So the Pegasus Knights are going to be fighting Wulfric, and they'll definitely do a pretty good job with that anti-large bonus. Granted, this War Mammoth does have 70 armor, so it's not completely vulnerable in that respect. And I do have some Halberds, but the Skinwolves also come in, so it's a very kind of a mashed up battle right now, but I have a ton of anti-large here, so I'm feeling pretty confident about this part of the battlefield. So guys, let's go ahead and survey around elsewhere, and you can see, like I was saying, the Peasant Bowman with the fire arrows doing a very good job of out-trading the Marauder Hunters, just putting them down and getting rid of my opponent's anti-large. You can also see over here the Soul Crusher has popped his Enrage ability, so he has that 44% ward save, but you can see the Knights of the Lionhearted hot pursuit, just kind of stabbing at his heels and doing a very, very good job of keeping up with him. But nonetheless, these peasants are having a very, very bad time just being run over by this Mammoth, but I did have my men-at-arms with polearms in auxiliary, so they're going to pull forward and start engaging on the Soul Crusher. And you can see it's down pretty low. The Knights of the Realm doing quite a good job. You can see the Inept General is popping the Sea Fang, so he shoots the Sea Fang through my peasants and just tears them to shreds here. The Beast Slayers the Bastion. But nonetheless, they're doing a very good job of keeping up with this Mammoth, and if we can get that Soul Crusher down, things are going to be looking quite good. Over here you can see Wulfric continuing to just take these fire arrows, and also fighting against these Royal Pegasus Knights, and the Fey Enchantress has blessed them with her favor, and also provided them with a regrowth. So the regrowth is going to be quite strong at kind of keeping those guys fighting against this monstrous War Mammoth here. On top of that, my Holy Wardens unfortunately have been routed off. They did kind of get chased down by some of these Skinwolves here, and Skinwolves aren't necessarily meant versus infantry, but nonetheless they have very good, just damage values in general. And you can see this poor Holy Warden here is unfortunately having to retreat, but they did really good kind of holding the line. And also they did a ton of damage to these armored Skinwolves. And you can see the fire arrows coming in here. Also, the Skinwolves, as you guys know, do have regeneration. Hence, they are weak to fire damage. So that fire damage in there really peppering those guys down. And you can see Wulfric is just surrounded. So the Beast Slayers, the Knights of the Lionhearted, the Royal Pegasus Knights, and these brave sons of Bretonnia have surrounded Wulfric the Wanderer here. And they are doing an excellent job, but not without taking some serious losses themselves. So guys, quite a wild fight so far. On the other side, you can see the Mammoth is doing pretty well. Unfortunately, these Skinwolves have gotten into some of my peasants. The wolves have gotten into the chicken coop. And you can see the Fey Enchantress here is kind of helping her peasants out and is blasting some of these guys with some of her magic abilities. And you can see these Royal Pegasus Knights and these Halberds are going to, for a moment, abandon Wulfric the Wanderer and just kind of leave him to fight the scraps. They're going to come over here and clean up these Skinwolves just to make sure that the peasants can keep fighting. Of course, in Bretonnia, you definitely have to take care of your peasants, at least in the battles. Not so much in lore, but here you do. So the Soul Crusher over here, has just been perpetually pressured by these men-at-arms with polearms, and the Knights of the Lionheart are definitely doing their king proud. King Lewin watching happily from some rampart somewhere, but these guys, man, are doing a great job of taking down this elephant. You can see the Soul Crusher is down to 4,500 HP, but it has racked up 4,500 kills. Oh, no, not 4,500. 128, and it's rocking 4,500 HP, give or take. And in the front line, you can see the Battle Pilgrims are holding pretty valiantly, and they were able to actually break through the front line, and they have gotten back to these Marauders. So these Marauder Javelineers are going to get taken out by these Battle Pilgrims. Granted, their combat stats aren't terrible. If we look at their weapon strength, it is 28 with 26 melee attack, so they will be able to put up a bit of a fight. So that's something that's cool about the Marauder Hunters in general, is that they actually have decent combat stats. Like, they can fight. And you also see they do have some decent skirmishing capabilities with 35 move speed. They are quite a bit slower, but the Knights of the Lionhearted are sick of that, and they're coming in here with a heavy Bretonnian charge. You're going to ride these unchivalrous brutes back into the forest. So definitely some good battling. You can also see the Holy Wardens coming back, their swords ablaze, definitely looking pretty angry. So the Marauders have been broken and routed into the forest. And let's go ahead and take a look and see if we can find Wulfric the Wanderer. So Wulfric appears to have been routed off. So these Royal Pegasus Knights, though having taken pretty heavy losses, Wulfric racked up 170 kills. Nonetheless, the Royal Pegasus Knights and the Fey Enchantress and the Beast Slayers of Bastion were able to take them down. So you can see these men-at-arms and the Grail Reliquae are kind of holding here, just finishing off the last of these forces. And let's go ahead and see if they have any other monstrous forces left. So right here, they do have some skin wolves here in the back line that have been causing some mischief, but the Beast Slayers of Bastion are hot on the job and are definitely going to do a pretty good job of kind of keeping these guys in check. Unfortunately, another one of these war mammoths has come back online. He wasn't, fully killed the Soul Crusher, the 80s metal mammoth. And you can see the Fey Enchantress is getting in here, and even though she's not the most competent fighter, I should say, well, she's a pretty good fighter, but not like meant for these types of situations. She still does have 300 weapon strength, so she gets a good rear charge here. You can see my fire arrows are back online, so all of my peasants have been, kind of freed from the clutches of the skin wolves. Now they're going to be firing at the Soul Crusher here. You can see in the front line, some of these Marauder champions are still putting up a decent fight, but nonetheless, it looks like the peasants of Bretonnia, with the support of some of their heroic units, some of the knights, are able to actually hold here. So the Marauder champions are a pretty cool unit. I like them quite a bit. 40 weapon strength, so they have a little bit more weapon strength than their Chaos Warrior alternative, but they are quite a bit more expensive. They do actually cost like 1,100 if I'm not mistaken. So Chaos Warriors, I still think, are going to be a little bit better and more cost effective, because they have 34 to 28, whereas Chaos Warriors have 34 and 34. Chaos Warriors also have more armor. So I'll be pretty interested to see how that head-up match goes, but I still think Chaos is going to have a little bit more durable infantry, but still, Norsca has so many monstrous units and the mammoths and different things like this. It's going to be awesome to see some of those matchups. So in the front line, the men-at-arms are getting that Earthblood heal, and you can see most of the Norscan forces have indeed routed, as the Soul Crusher and Wulfric the Wanderer have been pushed back into the realm from whence they came. So very well played to the Inept General. That was definitely one of the better battles we had. You guys can see the Battle Pilgrims are truly MVPs in that matchup. Like, they do so good in that frontline engagement. The Holy Wardens also took the brunt of that mammoth and still racked up 86 kills. The Fire Arrows also pretty MVP against the Skin Wolves and different things like that. He didn't have too much other regeneration, but nonetheless, missiles are very good against Norsca because they have a lot of unarmored, frontline troops. And personally, if I had been playing Norsca in this matchup, I would have probably, and granted we were just showcasing, but let's just talk about like an optimal circumstance. So I would have brought maybe, one mammoth for fun. I don't know. They still get a ton of kills, even though I essentially countered them. Like I had anti-large swarming them. They still racked up 170 kills. So I think it could be worth it. But on top of that, I probably would have brought some of the Norscan Berserkers, because the Berserkers with 54 weapon strength would have been able to cut through that Battle Pilgrim front line a lot more, whereas his Marauders and his frontline troops and the Spears really didn't hold that long against the Battle Pilgrims. These Foot Squires did pretty well, but I think these ones got whomped on by some of the Skin Wolves or one of the Mammoths. So, but yeah, nonetheless, very well played to the Inept General. And guys, go check out his channel. He's going to be doing lore. We're going to be playing some mod battles as well. And he's also the one who set all this up. So a big thanks to the Inept General for inviting me to play these games. And yeah, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that Bretonnia versus Norsca showdown. Thanks again for watching, guys. Got more content coming soon, and have an excellent night.